in there, but I think that's when Dee Dee lived in Greenville. You're
Yes.
saying she moved someplace?
She's in Troy now.
Oh, so maybe she'd be in the Democratic tent in that
Miami
county.
County.
Yeah.
Miami County.
She used to be in there every year.
Yes.
But okay. All right. So that's why she's not in there, because she's in a different county.
Right.
I guess I didn't know she moved out of Greenville, because she lived in Greenville forever.
Yeah, she could still come. I mean, to the Democratic tent there, we get people from Montgomery County, we have people from Columbus there. Yesterday.
Oh, so you can have people from another
Yeah,
county.
anybody can stop in and get a sign or a sticker or a button. Or,
Could they work? Could they volunteer to work too?
Oh yeah, we'll take anybody that wants to work.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, work, all it means is you sit in the chair and
Right.
wave at people, and if
Right.
somebody comes in and wants to, some people want to argue, some people just want to discuss, but you just talk to people.
Okay.
And we get a kind of an unusual number of people who come in and say, nobody can see me, I can't say anything, but I support what you're doing, but my neighbors are all real conservative and everybody in church is real conservative, so I can't put a sign out or do anything like that. But, we appreciate what the Democratic Party is doing.
Well,
so
good. I'm glad to hear
it's
that.
kind of the same thing.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's kind of sad that they feel afraid to say that.
Well, I do too, to tell you the truth. I'm afraid to put a sign out.
Me too.
Not me, I got tons of them. And the kids come along and knock them down. And you want to put it up on the piano, or you want to put it?
It's too heavy.
Where did you get those big sunflowers?
They were growing in my yard.
We
Wow.
can put them here on the.
We need to sit behind him. Can we do this?
Yeah. Or you can put them up.
Because this is kind of that the weight's going to help it. So be careful in the future.
Put it between the two.
Sandwich it.
Yeah, sandwich it. I don't do the things.
It's good.
Okay. We're up and rolling, I think. Welcome to First Universalist Church in New Madison. Fair week, so everybody's at the fair. This early, even in the morning. Nice summer morning. Nice rain last night. Things seem to be going pretty good. Do we have any announcements?
We'll have to set a cleaning date for our church. We're having visitors on Saturday, September 21. As you recall, that's part of the convocation that El Rado is having with a number of outside folks from out of state, what have you. And they'd like to come and visit our church
Yes.
on Saturday, September 21. So sometime before then, we'll get together and do a little cleaning.
Yeah, if we don't set a special date, I would say let's do it after church the Sunday before. We can vacuum and dust and get stuff ready to go. I don't think we have to do too much. Hopefully Kenny will be here so he can give people an interpretation on the history of all the personal touches, everything that's been made by members of the church, the quilt. Some of you need to be able to talk about the quilt.
Just do some vacuum dusting,
Yes,
stuff like that.
and straighten up the party section there.
Yeah, the West Room. The West Room.
Yes, it's getting kind of messed up there. All right, we are doing Project 2025. If you know anything about it, I forgot. I had a thing to put up as a poster to leave on the bulletin board, and I forgot to bring that, but I'll bring it later. It's something we're going to be talking about. If you're familiar with it, that is and actually I've got pictures of it. It is a 900-page program for if Trump is elected president, the first 180 days, there will be major changes done to the way the United States is structured and the way things work. We're going to go through a few of these. We may do a few as we go along every Sunday, because 900 pages is impossible to cover in one service, which we don't want to have a long service anyway. Prelude, perfect, goes right with 2025, the Republican plan for the future. Send in the clowns. Send in the Clowns, not the happy tune you might expect from the title. We are so blessed to have music, and particularly show tunes. Everybody here loves show tunes, so that's what we love. All right, chalice lighting, who we are called to be. Our chalice is a reminder that in hard times, our ancestors in faith acted with courage to bring hope and safety, to bring life itself to threatened people. We light it today as a reminder of who we are called to be. In a world still dangerous and despairing, with courage and faith, we bring ourselves to the work before us. Our opening hymn is 144. Now is the time approaching. As long as we have Ty and Lloyd, we don't need anybody else. Thank you. All right. The affirmation is a litany of oops and ouch. I receive your ouch with openness and curiosity. I receive your oops with acceptance and empathy. I offer my ouch with hope and trust. I offer my oops with humility and courage. I release my ouch with immeasurable faith. I release my oops with purpose. I release your ouch with promise. And I release your oops with my eyes and heart open. All right, Project 2025, we started on that. That has a long history. And make sure I'm not going to do this. I had this before and you can't read it. At the Democratic tent, that's what's by the Coliseum, on the south side of the Coliseum, by the entrance there is where the Democratic tent is. I'll be there from noon to 2 every day this week. Somebody brought in an actual printing of the Project 2025. It is 900 pages in a 3-ring binder. And what we offer anybody who stops in, conservative, liberal, whatever they are, just flip to a page and start reading and see what you think on any page out of the 900 pages. There's some pretty amazing stuff in there. So I'm going to give you an overview with the children's story if it plays. Now this is what the book likes to look down the top there.
Shrinkflation hurts families, and Senator Sherrod Brown is doing something about it. He wrote a bill to crack down on companies sneaking less product into the package.
This is what was an ad that you find on the computer that I couldn't delete, so we are not advertising for Sherrod Brown.
2025 is a startlingly authoritarian form of the U.S. government.
What is Project 2025? An ultra-conservative and the fascist playbook.
Project 2025 is a new paradigm.
Trump has distanced himself from Project 2025.
Trump is Project 2025.
Two words. Project 2025.
Project 2025. It's a name you'll be hearing a lot of over the coming months, a hot topic of the US presidential campaign. And of course, no relation to... So what exactly is it?
Project 2025 is the brainchild of the Heritage Foundation, which is a super conservative think tank that rose to prominence in the 1980s and then fell out of favour and has since remade itself really in Donald Trump's image.
The core of the vision is mandate, a 920-page blueprint of how federal power can be used for things like shredding climate goals, criminalising pornography, deploying the military to deport non-citizens en masse, and limiting access to abortion even further.
What Project 2025 does is put the substance behind Donald Trump's showmanship, and part of that means quite detailed plans to dismantle the institutions of American democracy.
The cornerstone of the plan involves a radical reshaping of the US government, disbanding the Departments of Commerce and Education, and replacing civil servants across the board with political loyalists, recruiting MAGA-friendly applicants from a proposed far-right version of LinkedIn.
That is chilling. And somehow only slightly worse than regular LinkedIn.
One of the people behind the project recently made headlines for saying this.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless, if the left allows it to be.
Causing many to turn their attention to the group's plans.
They call it Project 2025, and it is terrifying.
Have you read it?
I was so shocked reading it. Look up 2025 agenda.
The Democrats are keen to link Project 2025 directly to Trump. Kamala Harris today hitting out.
He and his extreme Project 2025 agenda. Can you believe that they're writing?
Trump is trying to distance himself from it, claiming,
I know nothing about Project 2025,
but
I disagree with some of the things they're saying.
yes,
I wish them luck.
and curiously,
I have no idea who is behind it.
Donald will be surprised to learn the people behind it are some of his closest advisors, people who worked in his first administration and are expected to serve in his second.
The whole big part of Project 2025 is actually going into the apparatus and start to take apart the administrative state brick by brick.
Many of Project 2025's plans are deeply unpopular, so Trump, as much as he might align with them ideologically, doesn't want to talk about them publicly.
So if Project 2025 comes to pass, just how different will America look?
Welcome to the project. We're live from the lands of the fallen nation, and to help break down Project 2025, Bill Weinman from the website Politics joins us now. Bill, look, there was a lot of talk going into the first Trump presidency about this kind of thing, that Trump would dismantle the US government and leave it in ruins, but look, it survived. Is this just more fear-mongering from his political opponents?
Well, it is and it isn't. And I think what happened in the first Trump presidency is they came in unprepared. He's obviously a pretty incompetent administrator. It was unfocused. He kept hiring and firing people. And in fact, they actually didn't get too much done, though of course he did do some very consequential things. And now this time, I think the thinking is, hey, let's hit the ground running. And there is some debate as to whether this is a Trump initiative or isn't or whatever, but it is clear that the forces in the right are ready to go to work on the very first day if he does happen to get reelected.
But Bill, I think a lot of people will look at this plan and say, okay, Trump wants to install his own people in government, but surely that's what every single other politician does when they get into office, so why is it any different?
It's really true. I mean, I have to say this story It's at once I don't want to say it's at once overblown and underblown. It's a little bit overblown in the sense that the Heritage Foundation, which is the genesis of this, has been doing this for a long time, for decades. So every 4 years they say, oh, if the Republicans get in, here's a blueprint of things that they can do. Now, the reason it's crazier this time is twofold. One is that the actual ideas in it are radical, even by Heritage Foundation standards. And people should know the Heritage Foundation is a right-wing think tank in Washington that has gone progressively more deranged over the past 8 to 10 years. But then the second thing is that Trump is seen, for all his self-braggadocio, I think he's seen behind the scenes as sort of a pliable, incompetent, buffoonish figure that people can use to pursue their own agendas. I think this is most famously evidenced by his choice of Supreme Court justices. It's obvious that Donald Trump has no actual feelings about legal ideas at all. He's obviously someone who would have supported, for example, a woman's right to choose for most of his career. So he actually doesn't have anything invested in it. And because of this, people think they can get away with, in this case, something close to murder.
Key question is how much Trump actually believes in this. He says he doesn't agree with it. He also says he hasn't read it. Is it possible that this just is not his agenda?
I really doubt it. It's really funny, the Trump himself and the Trump people, actually, they're so good at working the media in a certain way. And that when we talk about this story, we should start with saying 2 years ago at the Heritage Foundation, Trump said, hey, the Heritage Foundation is so great, they're creating the blueprint and the plans for exactly what we're going to do when we get back into office. Okay, so he said that 2 years ago, and then 2 years later they say, okay, here's the plan you were talking about. And he goes, oh, I don't know anything about that. And so I think we have to remember that what we do is often the media presents these stories and then presents a denial from Trump. And maybe what we should do is tell the story in a chronological fashion, make it clear that this is his plan, this is part of his agenda, and what he's doing now is, again, just not to mince words, bald-faced lying the way he does a lot.
All right, Ben, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Okay. All right, joys and concerns. We always start with Ukraine, and Mike brought in some actual real sunflowers, and they are just magnificent to look at, and we'll see if we can keep from tipping over. Ukraine is getting interesting. The Ukrainians are actually invading Russia, which is pretty much of a shocker, and that was like 2 weeks ago, and they're still there, which is even more of a shocker. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I think it's a bargaining point if asking the Russians if they want to come to the table and bargain. You give us our ground and we'll give you your ground. So I'm not sure the Russians are going to fall for that, but it's still interesting to see what's going on there. The tragedy is, once again, innocent villages are in the way, and innocent villages are bombed, shelled, and blown apart, and the civilians have to leave and evacuate and go someplace else. So it's the people who suffer no matter which side is doing what. So that still continues. Israel. I'm beginning to think neither side really wants a peace. The Israelis say they want a peace, and then they keep assassinating Hamas leaders or Hezbollah leaders, just basically poking the Iranians in the eye and daring them to do something. And Hamas has the Israeli hostages for how many huge number of days now, how many are still alive. And they keep saying, we're not going to negotiate this, or we accept the negotiation that was passed 2 weeks ago. But nobody seems to make any plans to actually come through with it, no matter how much the United States pushes them. So it looks to me like both of them are kind of entrenched in their thing. And I'm going to read you a little bit of an understanding when we get to the presentation part. It's a quote from Moshe Dayan, something he said about the conflict that was going on, which has gone on for generations, which I think is pretty impactful. Let's see. Anything else? I don't think. Oh, I guess I want to bring up now, how many of you saw the settlement that Dave Yost has done concerning First Energy? First Energy was fined $230 million by the U.S. government for bribing. $1.3 billion was their bribe. Millions of dollars went to Ohio legislators, candidates, and leaders, one of whom is in prison right now for his part in it. To get away from being sent criminally to court, they paid the federal government $230 million. It seems the state of Ohio settled with First Energy for $20 million. The federal government got 230, and the state of Ohio said, we're not going to sue you, we're not going to send you to prison, the leaders of First Energy, if you give us $20 million, which is pittance, basically. And on top of that, when the first, if you want to consider Dave Yost, when the first thing was passed to bail out the coal plants and the nuclear plants with all the bribery that was going on that everybody knew was going on, there was a petition signed, was launched to get it on the ballot to stop this from happening. And Dave Yost said the language, you have like, I think it's 40 days or 60 days, there's a certain time period you have to get all your signatures. So they wrote up the petition, gave it to Dave Yost, started getting their signatures. He said, halfway through, 20 days through, your language is not correct, you have to reword it, which was obviously a ploy. And then they started out with only 20 days left to get their signatures, and they could not get their signatures. As a sidelight, First Energy paid people to harass people gathering signatures. There were people yelling at them and knocking their papers down and impeding their ability to get signatures from people. So it looks like the government is on the side of the perpetrators on this one in the state of Ohio. So just a word to the wise, something to pay attention to as we go along. All right, I don't have anything else, so we'll light one final candle for all those unspoken wishes, desires, fears, problems that people are having. If we can help in any way, please come. Okay. Let me read you the Moshe Dayan things first. I don't know, I tried to get a picture and I didn't have a chance to put it in. He's the Israeli general with the eye patch, was famous in the 7 Days War, basically all the way from the 40s all the way up into the 90s. He kept doing this. This is what happened when one of their troops, or one of their people, was murdered by the settlers. Yesterday morning, Roe was murdered. Dazzled by the calm of the morning, he did not see those waiting in ambush for him at the edge of the furrow. Let us not cast accusations at the murderers today. This is at the funeral. Why should we blame them for their burning hatred of us? For 8 years, they've been dwelling in Gaza's refugee camps, as before their eyes we have transformed the land and the villages in which they and their forefathers had dwelled into our own property. We should not seek Roe's blood from the Arabs in Gaza, but from ourselves. How have we shut our eyes and not faced up forthrightly to our fate, not faced up to our generation's mission in all its cruelty? Have we forgotten that this group of lads who dwell in Nahal Oz is carrying on its shoulders the heavy gates of Gaza, on whose other side crowd hundreds of thousands of eyes and hands, praying for our moment of weakness so that they can tear us apart? Have we forgotten that? We are the generation of settlement. Without a steel helmet and the muzzle of the cannon, we will not be able to plant a tree and build a home. Our children will not have a life if we do not dig shelters. And without barbed wire and machine guns, we will not be able to pave roads and dig water wells. Millions of Jews who were exterminated because they had no land are looking at us from the ashes of Israeli history and ordering us to settle and resurrect a land for our people. But beyond the border's furrow, an ocean of hatred and an urge for vengeance rises, waiting for the moment that the calm will blunt our readiness, for the day that we will heed the ambassadors of conspiring hypocrisy who call upon us to put down our arms. Let us not flinch from the loathing that accompanies and fills the lives of hundreds of thousands of Arabs who dwell around us and await the moment that they can reach for our blood. Let us not avert our eyes, lest our hands grow weak. This is the destiny of our generation. This is the choice of our lives, to be ready and armed, strong and tough. For if the sword falls from our fist, our lives will be cut down. How prophetic. That was said in like 1970 or 1980. I don't have the exact date. But that tells you exactly what the situation is. Hard-eyed, steely determined. He knows what they are doing to the Arabs. He said, to get this land, to make this land ours, we have to take it from them. We know they hate us, and we accept that hate, and we will be prepared to fight back. The prescription for never-ending war. And as weapons of war increase in magnitude of destruction, the future only holds mutual destruction for all concerned, is my worry. All right, any comments on the Israeli situation? All right, then we'll go on to 2025. Part of the project, and I'll just list a few here, and we're going to go through them pretty quickly. And I'll list them as more. If I can find a condensed list, which I may be able to, I'll put it up next week or whenever we do this again. The transition period is these people, the Heritage Foundation has been working on this for 20 years. They really started after the last election because they were caught with their pants down or flat-footed because nobody expected Trump to be elected. So when he was elected, he appointed all of these named conservative people who had a conservative history and a history for doing the right thing, for being in government. And it turned out all these people that they appointed, 90% of them anyway, had an actual loyalty to the government, to the Constitution, to the way the country should be run, and they basically refused to do the things they were told to do. If you look at the past administration figures, almost 70% of the people who were in the past administration do not support the current candidate for president. 70% of the people who were in, the Army generals, the heads of all the departments, the heads, only like Ben Carson is one of the few that will still support Trump. He's one of the few you've seen. If you listen to any of the rest of them, they will tell people off the record how terrible the situation was and how terrible it will be again. I question why they don't have the courage to come out in public and say that. Maybe they think the nation can withstand this. I'm not so sure. But anyway, they're the ones who were involved in this. The ones who are the loyalists, they're the ones who were recruited to do Project 25. The basic plan behind Project 25 is they are putting out on Facebook and LinkedIn and all these other places, any conservative who wants a job in the government, let us know. Right now, the only people who are fired, according to the civil service, are political appointees. Political appointees in every department, whether it's the health department, the weather department, the national resources department, every department of the government, only the people at the top are political appointees. Everybody else is a civil service person. They are protected by the civil service laws. The plan of Project 25 is to take 60 to 70% of these people and turn them into political appointments, which means 60 to 70% of the people in the health department, in the transportation department will be fired, and Trump loyalists who will do what they are told to do will be hired in their place. It's basically wholesale taking over the government. This is in black and white. This is what's written in Project 25. That's the reason it's so scary to so many people, it's upending the entire way the government is structured, the whole structure of checks and balances. The next thing, or one of the more other prominent things they want to do, is impose executive privilege. Instead of having to go to Congress to get laws passed, they will do an emergency decree where the president can say this is going to happen now, and then Congress can debate it later. So he can deport, or he will order the deportation of millions of illegal immigrants. And that's just, they're going to set up concentration camps. They don't call them concentration camps, what they call the Japanese internment. They're going to set up internment camps all around the country. Plans are already in place, the places, the facilities, everything is in planning stage. So all they have to do is execute it and then round up all the immigrants they can find and send them back to Mexico. This is a sidelight. If you're paying attention in Dark County, Spencer Landscaping, the tree trimming businesses, the roofing companies, just look at these people when you see them working in the landscaping, putting roofs on, doing concrete. Almost a majority are Latin Americans. They may not be Mexicans, they might be Guatemalans, they might be Hondurans, but they're from Latin America. If you look at what is populating the northern counties, where just north of us, turkey farms, chicken farms, everybody, almost everybody up there is of Latin American descent. I do some work in Union City, and the Union City trailer park is completely filled with Latin Americans, most of them Mexicans. And they don't, some are legal and some are not legal. Nobody cares if they're legal. I was told by somebody who works at Spencer that they paid the Coyote to bring one of their top workers over who's making like $30 an hour. They paid the Coyotes $15,000 to bring him over. He has to pay that back out of his wages, but at $30 an hour or whatever he's making, a good sum, he can afford to pay it back. So it's not like nobody knows what's going on. Everybody knows what's going on. And that's what the danger is, and that's what economists have said. If you send all the illegals back, there won't be anybody to do the work, the actual backbreaking, sweaty work that gets done. And that's not counting the slaughterhouses, the dairy farms. That's the sad commentary in my life. We milked 100 cows, now 1,000 cows. It's basically the minimum. And they have automatic computer-controlled milking, but the people involved who take care of the cows, the people involved who run the milking machines, they're all immigrants. Americans don't do that kind of work anymore. So, that's one. The other one is they are going to totally wholesale eliminate agencies. The education department will be eliminated. There won't be any more education department. Education will be turned over to the states. The plan is that the principals will be elected in popular election. The school board will not hire principals. Principals will be elected. Public control of the school is what is important to the Heritage Foundation. And the reason public control is important is because we all know that the saying, might makes right. And I can give you the example at the Democratic Tent. We've been harassed at the Democratic Tent. Young people, probably teenagers still in high school, have come in and thrown stink bombs. When the women are there by themselves, they've harassed them verbally. They've stolen signs, or basically taken signs. We give signs away, but not to people who are going to go destroy it. We give signs away to people who want to use the sign. So, intimidation, fear, physical violence, that's all part of the conservative plan. I don't think anybody has complained about the Republican tent being harassed. I'm not aware of it if they have. But that is part of the plan of what goes along. Elimination of all these departments. The ones who remain, one which will be important, will be the Trade Department. That will be staffed by people who are in favor of all the Trump policies, which parenthetically are idiotic. Trump is still said in Pennsylvania, tariffs are paid by the companies that we put, or the countries that we put the tariffs on. Does anybody not understand how tariffs work? If we put a tariff of 100% on a Chinese electric car, in other words, if it costs $10,000, we put 100% tariff, so it costs $20,000. When that car comes to the United States, Did they sell it for $10,000 or did they sell it for $20,000? They sell it for $20,000. Whoever buys it in the United States pays the tariff. I mean, it's that way for steel, it's that way for food. No matter what the tariff is, we, the customer, the consumer, pays the tariff. The company's not going to eat it. If they don't make any money, they won't sell it. So if you double the price, they just double the price for you. And that's the kind of things that people are still swallowing hook, line, and sinker, which is pretty hard to believe. And we try to explain that. And the density of prevention of influx of knowledge is just incredible. So, let's see. Elimination of all the departments. Also, the FBI and the CIA have all been called the deep state, controlled by other people. They will be like diminished in size and peopled by the people who know how it's supposed to be run, which means elections will be controlled by them. The election mantra is if we win, it's fair. If we lose, it's robbed. It's a cheat. It's not true. Every single election has been like that. I've argued with people or discussed with people at the fair. Still think elections are untrue. I saw the numbers changing, going up and down, up and down. That's the way the computer records the numbers. When there's a new number, it goes in. If another number is proven to be fallacious, it goes out. That doesn't mean there's any cheating with the computers. They had 60 lawsuits all across the country. Not one of them survived. Not one of them was found to have a foundation. And this is with Trump-appointed judges. The Republican people running the state of Georgia all said the election was fair. Everybody on the Trump side says it's not fair, so they're eliminating the people in power in Georgia who are Republicans, but they're old school Republicans, Republicans who stand up for what the country stands up for. We are in the midst of basically, just like this guy said, there's a revolution in place, and if the Democrats don't fight back, it will be bloodless. They're going to eliminate the EPA. They're going to eliminate the Weather Service, NOAA, and have what all this is privatization. If you want weather reports, you'll have to pay somebody to give you a weather report. Instead of having radar that'll tell you what's coming along, you'll have to pay to get that. Everything will be privatized. Everything will make money for somebody. Taxes are going to go up, and I don't have the exact schedule on that. I'll have to look it up. Taxes will go up on the lower income people. Medicaid will be cut. They plan on eliminating the Obamacare. Medical insurance will be eliminated. The listing of things through here is enough to make your hair turn white if it wasn't already. And these things are all written down in the plan to be promulgated in the first 180 days. So when you see the signs that say vote for democracy, they're not joking. I mean, there is really something here that people have to be aware of. Okay, I'll hit a few more of these as we go along, but I don't see any reason to belabor it. This is an educational thing. We're trying to get people motivated and trying to get them educated, even though the educational plan is to eliminate critical thinking. That's what schools are supposed to teach, is look at two ideas, see which one makes sense, follow them back to the origin, see who is saying it, see why they're saying it. No, that's not what they want. There was just a thing in Florida. They had a picture of a dumpster. The State College of Florida, or whatever the state college, I don't know what the name of it is, all the books on critical race theory, all the books on racial equality, all the books on DEI, on making people equal, all the books on gays, they're all being purged from the library and put in a dumpster. People come in and say, if you don't want these, there's lots of libraries that need books, lots of places that would like to have these books. These are all recently published books. No, we're not allowed to give them or sell them to anybody. They have to be taken to the landfill and destroyed. It's not burning books, but it's the next step from burning books. So go back and look at your Nazi history. All right, comments or questions?
There are so many think tanks, thousands of think tanks throughout the country. And their history of my familiarity is they have a specific agenda. They often do modified research. Often they do less than professional research to push their agendas. And they go before Congress to testify. They go before state houses to testify. Sometimes invited by one particular party or the other. Sometimes they invite themselves. What gives the Heritage Foundation the thought that they can entirely move our country through a manifesto when all these others are pushing similar agendas?
I think it's just a wish. The Heritage Foundation has been around for 30 years or 40 years. And as they said in the little thing there, every election they publish a bunch of things that the elected president, conservative president should do. They've never had an elected president who was enough of illiterate as far as what government is involved in, and still saying things that don't make any sense. I mean, and we can pull out quotes right and left. But all of a sudden now, if whatever advisors he has who aren't in jail, which a lot of his advisors are now in jail for what they've done, those people are the ones who will be in charge of hiring the people who come in. And if you hire people who follow your path, if you hire true believers, you can get true believers to do. It's just like the electors in Michigan, the electors in Arizona. They refused to certify the election, even though they went through the vote counts over and over and over again. And they checked the machines over and over again. And everybody who was rational said this is a true, actual, valid election. These electors continue to say it's not a valid election, and we are going to make Trump the president no matter what the election results show. It's like Trump going to Georgia and saying, I need 8,248 votes or whatever. Just 8,248, you can find them somewhere. I mean, that's not the way you run a fair election. That's the way you say, I need this many to win, so find me this many, whether you have to make them up. And you hear about aliens voting, you hear about dead people voting. Every time you see something in the news where somebody has been arrested for election fraud, sadly, it's a Republican who's voted in 2 different states. They live in New York and they have a home in Florida and they voted in both of them. I mean, you don't hear about Democrats doing that. And I don't think it's because the news controls it. So I'm getting pretty discouraged. That's what it amounts to. So.
The name of democracy and whatever, pluralism, what have you. Very quickly, I'll cite a classic example. A number of years ago, all the curriculum content organizations got together, plus college professors, technical publishers, parents, and anybody else. And they developed a set of Common Core standards, and they were called the Common Core.
Yeah.
It was a recommended, I underscore, curriculum that was built for any state that wanted to adopt pieces, parts of, or all of, for improving the rigor and the engagement level of students in K-12 schools. Conservatives totally overwhelmed that process and stopped it dead in its tracks because they claimed that it was one organization trying to circumvent our democratic process in our schools and teach a common curriculum when only parents had the right to determine the curriculum. They stopped it. Indiana eliminated it. It was never adopted in most states. It was simply brought before them for consideration. Arkansas dumped it. Another state dumped it because of political pressure, because it wasn't their agenda. It was if you will, a united collaborative agenda that they didn't like. Ohio Department of Education pretty much had a lot of it in place, and they probably sent out a confidential memo to all their staff: don't use the word Common Core. Never say it, don't remark about it, don't tell your schools about it. That's no longer a word we use around here. And their Ohio New Learning Standards exist today as I speak.
It's pretty discouraging, and I think it's intentional. I mean, if you have a population that doesn't know what's going on, if you have an ignorant population, they're much easier to fool, and we've seen that right along. What has made the United States and America a great country is we were one of the few and first countries to have free public education. even in the 1700s, every kid could go to school and every kid didn't have to pay a fee like in England to go to a fancy school. Every kid could go to the public school. Everybody could see what was going on in the public school. And that went on for generation after generation after generation. And students were educated. They were educated together with different kinds of people from different places. They learned tolerance. They learned to understand other people. They learned to speak with other people. And it wasn't until we got into the civil rights problem that we started dividing schools until black and white. And integration tried to put them back together, but it's not been very successful, particularly in some hardcore places. When people don't go to school together, when they don't see each other, and I've talked about this before, when we canceled the draft, when the draft was in place, people from all over the country, from every physical, the only people who didn't get drafted were people like Trump who had bone spurs, but every other, even rich people who had some kind of sense of loyalty went into the military, and they went in as privates, unless they were college educated, in which case they became an officer. But they all mingled together, the South, the North, the West, the East, rich people, black people, Hispanic people. They all served together, and they found out that people are people no matter where they are, and they made friends, and they had unit cohesion no matter what unit they were in. When the draft ended, that mixture stopped. We've been slowly segregating and separating ourselves intentionally with a plan, and I think that's what's hurting the cohesion of the country. That's why people can live in what they call silos, get their own information, watch their own news, talk to their own people. Anybody on the outside is evil, a rapist, a murderer, an immigrant from some other country. And yet you know all these people, when they meet somebody on the street, they're not racist, they're not negative. They say hi, they shake hands, they help people. If a black family's car breaks down out front of your house, you don't lock the door and shoot them, although that's beginning to happen more and more. They are helped, but they're helped as an individual, not as a representative of their race. So, on the soapbox again. Okay. Our offering is Summer to Place, perfect for today. If you have something to contribute, please do. If you need something, let us know. Another beautiful, appropriate show tune. Thank you.
Let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung. Through every land, by every tongue.
Our closing hymn is 34. Though I may speak with bravest fire. Okay, I forgot one joy. Lisa, I asked you last week, we lit a candle for Lisa, breast cancer scare. That's not totally passed, but the breast cancer specialist said the antibiotics are shrinking the problem she's having in her breast. So that's pretty much a sign that it's not cancer, that it's like a cyst or a abscess. So she's feeling a lot more relieved, as are we all. So blessings for that. We're going to leave one candle lit for all those who need help, those who need concerns, those who need anything. Please let us know if you do. And extinguishing the chalice, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord keep all those whom you love, whether here or in some other place. May God be your companion and you be God's friend as you walk together through all the days of your life. And at the journey's end, may you find the welcome of God's love. It keeps us all. Amen. Our last picture, I hate to pick on Trump, but he's such an obvious target. This is a horse called Amaldi. I think that's how you pronounce it. Back when Trump owned all of his casinos, he had a friend, and I'll show you another one, who was a horse racer trainer, said, this horse has a chance to go to the Kentucky Derby. I want you to sponsor him. Trump paid $250,000 for this horse and promised another $250,000 when he went into training. He was in training. There was a virus going around the barns. The veterinarian said, we can't take this horse and move him up to the racetrack because if he has the virus, even if it's undetected, it could cause severe medical problems if he does too much exertion. Trump said, I paid for it, it's my horse, I want some money back, put him in the race. So they sent the horse into training, they sent him up to Kentucky to run the preliminary races. He came down with the virus, became active. he lost his front hooves, had to be amputated. This horse had his front hooves amputated. Oh, also, the horse's name was Amaldi. Part of the Trump's deal was you have to change his name to DJ Trump. So that's the horse's legal name now, is DJ Trump. After he became sick and had his front hooves amputated, Trump refused to pay the second $250,000 that he had paid, which is part of the course. Don't want you to worry too much because horses' hooves are like fingernails. He was on basically prosthetics, and slowly those hooves grew back out again, so he wasn't destroyed. He was kept as a stud horse. Tremendous background, lots of potential, but he'll never be a racehorse again because of the lasting damage of what was done basically on account of greed. Greed and insensitivity. Who cares what a living being goes through as long as I get my money? So, okay, that's just, got to throw a horse in somewhere, and that would seem to be pretty appropriate. There are donuts, and I'll have the coffee going in just a minute. We need to leave at a fairly decent time because I have to be at the Democratic tent by noon, so I got to leave here by 11:30. So have a donut and a coffee, and then talk on the front porch. Okay, people will say we're in love. Another tremendous show tip.
Love them, all three of those. I had to sing along a little bit on that last one.
That's fine.
But I did it real softly. I didn't. You're the artist.
That's fine. I thought I heard Gordon McCrae.
Yes. Gordon McCrae and Shirley Jones, I think.
Yeah. You know, I watched that Thursday night. It was on Pluto TV.
You working every day there? Yes. I'm going to get there. I think tomorrow. If I can get back. We got a coffee with my man this morning, so. I have time to stop.
I said I'm there today for even today, it might be longer because the guidance was 2 weeks. So he's not having a problem, so but somebody else volunteers. You can't hardly be unattended. No. Because they didn't realize like.
I have a question that 95% are counting on.
I haven't gone down and asked them.
Well, let me add just like the schools. Just in case responsibility, respect other people's property. I never built my own school every day.
We get lots of people in the product is in the town, push it together. So they come by with their Trump signs, and they'll like walk up to the tent, shake the sign like that. Or
guys with their wraps.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. People with Trump hats on, come by and say, you suckers, and you so stupid and things like that.
You know what, somebody else, even though they're alive, they don't really, seriously. Or they can't be, I don't know, I'm not saying printed, unless they printed, but
They wouldn't print it, I don't think, because
I don't know what are they.
I've seen now, there's maybe this message, yeah, children party. That pastor's column had that whole thing about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Because I even thought they're so atrocious. What was it, about how the country is going to hold the ambassador to the veterans well faith and basically it's the that's all. I'll bring it.
I would just have somebody watch that video. Well, make some commentary on Clark County's, no, not on that article, on the area.
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, what I'm trying to do is,
They want to accomplish it, they do.
people even know if it happens when I'm here, I'm going to and instead of those, actually, those go to the sheriff too. But, it's just, it's so discouraging because it used to be Republicans and Democrats, everybody was.
You laugh, and you make
Yeah,
jokes.
you went together, or you were in the Kiwanis together, or whatever else, and you made jokes with each other. And now, like, you know, they've totally separated out. Everybody's
Republicans.
What's that?
They're big.
When you come in gate 2, which is the walking gate where the stoplight is, the first line of tents and booths that goes down to the left, right at the beginning, right across from the casino. They're like the first or second tent on the left hand side. The Democrats keep on going toward the track, and it's literally.
I think where it is, yeah, where it should, the same place last year. Same place before, I don't know last year.
Across from the Harvard one, tent, which is always a temptation, is this kind of food smell.
It's in that area where it's across the top, too.
Yes, it's right where
the base of the.
Yeah, it's right where the stairs, the basement is right there.
Where the cooling area.
Yes,
everybody hangs out there.
So,
the fruits and vegetables and flowers, hopefully Republicans. Oh, interesting.
I will have to say real quickly that so long as our government gets us involved in wars like Vietnam and Korea, I've always been used to that.
How about Kansas?
Well,
21 years.
See, the reason.
We should have got in and out there.
21 years.
We needed to bloody. We needed to bloody Taliban's nose to give them the message that if somebody blows something up in this country, and you harbor them, we're going to come in there, we're going to run you out of the government, and we're going to kill a whole bunch of them. So don't do it. We need to get, and what we could have done that, got in that coalition with the Northern Alliance, bloody, kill them, run out of the government and kill them, and then got out. And then before we left, say, okay, Taliban, we ran you out of the government, we let the Northern Alliance take over, we helped them take over, and we killed 10,000. Now, this is what's going to happen if somebody blows something up in this country and you harbor them. So next time you harbor them, we'll just come again and run you out of the government again and go another 10,000. So we needed to bloody their nose. But we could have done that in a year, and then got out.
Yeah, because they're back in power again now.
Well, yeah, well, you knew that they were going to get back in power. Because so people, I don't care whether you're the Taliban or not the Taliban, the people that get in the government there are too corrupt to ever run the government unless you're the Taliban. You're never going to stay. Because we gave them all kinds of money and weapons.
And now they got hunger and mass starvation.
Right, and they girls go to school. They oppress the women, but the government that was then before the Taliban got back in they embezzled and they wasted a whole bunch
All
of
that
that.
cars on, yeah.
So,
All it was good for is making. See, that's the value of the draft. I mean, people don't, I mean, maybe they don't understand or don't believe. Part of the reasons the Vietnam War ended was because a lot of people didn't want to be drafted and they started the anti-war. When people can pay somebody to go to war, which is basically what you're going to say, then there's nobody standing up and says we don't want to go to war. So Bush was going to Iraq after Afghanistan. And on false pretense, everybody just kind of swallowed the whole. And if you had a draft where people said, okay, we're going to have a draft of 100,000 people to fight in Iraq, you would have a lot more opposition to the war.
Well, I don't think running Saddam Hussein out of the government of Iraq was a bad thing. It's just like I said about the Civil War. Slavery was really bad. And even though the Civil War wasn't started because of slavery, that Emancipation Proclamation came about after about 2 years. So that was a good thing. But there was nothing involved in the Civil War that I would have got shot. I'm not going to candidate status. So the draft people and forced them to fight the Civil War, that was an oppression by them. That was an oppression.
That's a bloody war.
Good donuts. Oh, you got donuts. Good music this morning, Lloyd.
That was good.
Really appreciate.
Wonder if they, does Bert have any?
You go to the fair, I think, regardless of everybody go to the fair.
That's right. Send in the clowns.
Yeah.
Don't bother, they're here. Bother, they're here.
What's the news around town? Anything?
I know.
Nothing? Everybody's in the fair.
I thought about going Friday and Saturday.